brilliance of God. On this day, you can accept the brilliance of God that lives within you, that is your life force. When you accept the brilliance of God, you're accepting your own brilliance. The reflection of God shines with a light actually so bright that the eyes of the body cannot see that light. And yet that light is completely within you and within everything that lives eternal. It is a leap of faith to trust that that light is within you. There's no there's no proof that's going to come to placate the ego, because the need for faith is so all encompassing. It's what makes the connection. It's what aligns everything. When you have faith in the power of God, in the light of God, in the truth of love, that faith leads you. And it lets you actually step over boulders. It lets you step over sharp rocks. And you don't even really notice them because your intention, your purpose is clear. You have faith in the direction that you're being led. And you have faith that in the truth of love, you're safe. In the truth of love, you're part of the harmony of the universe. And just dwelling for a minute on that, that you have everything that the universe creates. You're the harmony itself. Those are just words until you embrace the offering. I once saw a, a nightmare that I carried in my mind. And the nightmare that I carried in my mind, which was hidden behind the obvious thoughts, was that I would climb and climb and climb and climb and climb and climb and climb the stairs to where love was. And I saw myself climbing these stairs. And then what I saw was that I opened the door at the top of the stairs, and there was this darkness that said, "Ha, I fooled you." And that was the fear that if I put my faith in the truth of love, I would climb those stairs and I would be duped. But what I had to see was that the idea of being duped was what I had already made in the world. I had already created, made relationships that were illusions. They were based on fears and self protection. And now God is calling for you to accept the brilliance that when you open that door, when you climb those stairs and you open that door, love welcomes you in. Love welcomes you home because that's where you belong. The ego's thought system is determined for you to carry fear as real. Real. How long have you believed that fear was real? As long as you can remember. What do you have to lose to accept love instead of fear? It's your acceptance. And it can be that simple, the choice. Pain or love, suffering or love. There's a place in each beloved that knows the strength of God, knows that love is real. That's not the knowing of the mind, it's the knowing of the heart. The knowing of the mind is the ego's. And most of the time, the knowing of the mind says, I'm going to cover you with illusions of thoughts so that you're so occupied by batting around these thoughts that you forget that only love is real, that only love is the truth of all life. So that's why love always calls to step back into the quiet, into the stillness, so that you can hear that exquisite vibration of love that is coming from your heart. So you can hear the voice of God directing you moment to moment. And then there is no room for the fear, no room for the belief system that has been running the show. That's the miracle. The miracle is your changing of your mind, dropping the lies and accepting only love is real, moment to moment. It's the courage of coming into the heart and allowing that precious communion to be ongoing. In this hymn says, God, let me get so close that I disappear into that love and feel the tenderness. Feel your tenderness. I feel your tenderness. I feel the tenderness of your ever loving hand. Feel your tenderness. I feel your tenderness. I feel the tenderness from deep within. I feel your mercy, Lord. I feel your mercy, Lord. I feel the mercy, Lord, of your ever loving hand. I feel the mercy, Lord. I feel your mercy, Lord. I feel your mercy, Lord, deep within. I sense the truth, O Lord. I sense the truth, O Lord. I sense the truth, O Lord, from your ever loving hand. I sense the truth, O Lord. I sense the truth, O Lord. I sense the truth, O Lord, from deep within. Even while your heart may be singing that prayer, the ego can at the same time be saying, I don't hear anything. I don't think it's true. I've decided. And that's the voice that you don't want to listen to anymore because it's it's vicious. It doesn't want you to remember the truth of love. And yet that voice is seductive because it's familiar. Even when it's filled with pain and the belief of suffering from the past, it's familiar. And the past can be believed much more easily than the place of faith that says only love is real. This is a psalm about pain. We sometimes have to be clear that we're believing in pain, and you have to be clear that you no longer want the pain or want to believe even in the pain. And the deepness of surrender is the acceptance that there is no pain in love. There's no suffering in love. And it's that acceptance. How long will this belief of pain go on? This grief I can hardly bear. How long will anguish grip me in this illusion and agony wring my mind? Light up my eyes with your presence. Let me feel your love in my bones. Keep me from losing myself in ignorance and despair. Teach me to be patient. Teach me to be endlessly patient. Let me trust that your love unfolds within me in every moment. I will sing to you at all times, in every moment. Teach me. Teach me. We use that word a lot or that phrase a lot, teach me. But it's hard to put your enthusiasm into teach me because many times the ego has convinced that you already know and you don't want to rock the boat of what you know. You don't want your apple cart turned over. You want it to stay the same and be in control of it, not knowing that you think you are in control of it. As soon as the words teach me come into your heart, the apple cart just tips over just a little bit. Not because there's meanness, but because you're ready to learn that all those apples in the apple cart were just the made up thoughts, and your own truth has never been changed within you. But it's kind of like the child that's trying to get a cookie out of the cookie jar. And there's too many cookies in the cookie jar, and you stick your hand in the cookie jar and you can't get your hand out with one cookie. So you keep staying in there because you're afraid that you won't get your cookie. And it's like that with the apple cart. You're afraid if you let go of illusions that are yours in your mind, that you're going to be without, or it's too much out of control. But the learning really is that you never were in control. There never was anything actually that was controllable within the world of illusion. It changes all the time, moves all the time. And that teaching right there is calling you back to your heart, within your heart, and the surrender of your mind. That there's nothing out there that affects you at all. That your peace is directly connected to your thoughts. It becomes so simple. And yet the ego makes it seem as if you have to dive through maze after maze to make sense out of it. Give it to the divine and let the power of love transform what's in the way just by walking past the apple cart and tossing a couple of apples out, because you're not afraid anymore of the apple cart turning over. Love will show you the way. There's a prayer that I've used a few times. Before you speak to me about your spiritual path, first show it to me with how you treat others. Before you tell me how much you love God, show me how much you love all his children. Before you preach to me of your passion for your faith, teach me about it through your compassion for all relationships. In the end, I am not interested in what you have to tell or sell, as in how you choose to live and give. Through our expression, that is that is your testimony. That is your offering. That is how you serve humanity. The peace of your heart, your trust in God, your resting in that trust, and the non judgment of yourself or others. To not judge yourself and not to judge anyone, but to surrender all judgment into the hands of God and really no longer want to carry any judgment, any decisions that you think you know, because they're always just so painful. They end up being painful because they're not based on your love. Surrender all judgment. But it's not always easy to surrender all judgment, because most of the time the ego convinces that it's not judgment at all, that it's really helpful information, that you're really on the ball with what you know. There's a place of not being afraid to look at what the fear is and what you are making that involves fear. We have to see the fear that we believe in. It's like taking a flashlight and putting it down your in your throat. You have to see the fear that you believe in. When what the ego really does is make up stories, make up identities, make up lies, and make up relationships and make up everything. And then convinces that it's what you should be protecting, what you should be defending, the fears. There is no greater gift than your willingness when there is what seems to be someone in difficulty or someone that has crashed in some way, and to hold them in the light of who they truly are. There's no greater gift. When you hold someone in the truth of who they truly are and honor that, they that that holding is a light that is being delivered to them. They're receiving the light. They're receiving your intention, your love, and that is absolutely healing. There is no healing if you are in your fear, and because you don't like it, you instead project fear onto someone else, or even want to let them know and give them your fear. But holding truth for another is the healing of all narcissism. It's very difficult to be narcissistic and be actually offering love to someone. Love is without conditions, so the narcissism can't jump on. The fear says, I want to get allies in my fear. When I'm in fear, I want others to join with me. And I don't really care if I'm telling them an illusion about my fear. I just want someone else to be an ally in that fear. It's a very painful place because you're not in touch at all with your heart or with your love for anything because you're so afraid. The fear has to be recognized for what it is. Fear is a defense system that protects your beliefs. It isn't the beliefs itself, it's the fear that holds it safe in your kingdom. And in that pretense of the fear having power, you protect all the beliefs. There's a beautiful teaching that says, don't be afraid to look at the fear. You have to look at the fear and see what the fear holds because it's running the show. And while it runs the show, your loyalty is to the fear rather than to love, to truth. And your beliefs are hiding behind the fear. So then you don't look at the beliefs, just react to the fear. And it's a vicious cycle. But love is calling to truly surrender the fear and look and be willing to look at the beliefs and the fear of what is running. What if you went immediately to hate, that you don't pass go, you don't collect $200, you go directly to hate, and you don't want to look at that. So the fear is in charge and hiding behind, or hiding in front of, the fear, the hate. But the hate is what's running everything. Hatred being anger, being resentment, being irritation, being even caution, and self-hate. Doesn't matter whether the hate is pointed at somebody else or it's pointed at yourself. It's the same belief. Do not be afraid to let the light shine on the belief of that hatred. It's a false identity. And when you are willing to look at it, you become spiritually aligned, because the other is just the game of hide and seek. And love is straightforward. Love doesn't play games. God doesn't play games. The games are all in the mind of the belief of hatred, and that it's got a legitimacy to it. Hate the world because of scarcity. Hate the world because of disease. Hate the world because of meanness. Hate the world because of winter. Hate the world, whatever it happens to be that you're thinking is outside you and that is the problem. It isn't the problem. It's the belief that hatred is valid. And to see through love is to open the heart, open your heart, and be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not, the way that I'm using it, a dirty word. This is about being open and available and not having any of that old defense system that's kind of playing ping pong with your thoughts. There's nothing to protect. There's nothing to defend. There has never been a problem at all. Now I say that because that's what I'm completely aware of. But in the belief of problems, it's it's a it's a heavy duty relationship. It it takes all your attention. But love is keeps saying there is no problem. Let me see the problem so it can be solved. The problem is that I have no faith. The problem is that I believe I'm separate from God. The problem is that I like my thoughts. The problem is I believe I know. The problem is that none of those things actually exist. You don't know. There is no problem. And love is waiting to be embraced in every moment. It's who and what you are completely. There's no one to dump anything on. There's no one to give your problems to for fixing, because you can't fix illusion. Illusion has to be denied. And the urge, when you believe that there's a problem, the urge that comes up is, I remember being a victim so easily, I can go there again because obviously the world is against me. And that's the moment. That's the moment of no more. No, I'm not listening to the lies anymore. I'm not accepting the lies of problems. I give the idea of problems over to God. There are no problems. I am one with God. In that declaration, your heart can truly open and your mind can release all the beliefs that were never true. When you hear your voice say, "Ah, I don't believe that. How do I know? How will I know?" That's the moment of turning your back on those lies. Just as Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel was in the lion's den. He was thrown in the lion's den, and the lions came out through the back door where the lions were, and he turned his back on the lions and focused on God, focused his intention and attention on God. And what that was symbolic of is that he was turning away from the ego. He was turning towards God, and the ego was snarling and ripping and all this kind of stuff. But he turned to God. And that's what we do. We turn back to God where we belong, where where there is integrity, where there is truthfulness, where there is authenticity. That's that's heaven. And heaven is here, right now. And you are the brilliance of God right here, right now, for all eternity. Accept the tenderness of God, accept the beauty of God, accept the truth of God, and rest in God.